morning, YouTube. Thanks for tuning in to Total Payout Podcast. This is your host, Trouble. Okay, so we're going to start out this Friday of February 27th, recapping yesterday's picks. We did have three picks yesterday, three totals. We had Louisiana Tech over 136. We had the Orlando Magic and the Houston Rockets over 216. And then we had Philly, the 76ers under, and the Miami Heat under 241. So just to kind of recap, do a quick little recap. We did have Louisiana Tech going over 136. They did have 142 in regulation. Kind of called it. Like I said, last game 136 in regulation. Did go to overtime. This one 142 didn't go to overtime. Then we had Orlando and Houston. Houston did end up winning that game 113-108. They did have a brutal first half. I don't even think they reached 100 points, but the second half they made up for it. Houston obviously having a great scoring second half. Hopefully this takes them out of their offensive slump that they've been in for about the last month or two. So they've been kind of hurting as far as offense. Hopefully yesterday's second half brings them out of that slump. Then we got the Philly Miami game. Now that game was kind of crucial. That one had me nervous. That pushed actually we had it under 241. So, that didn't win. We did go two wins, one push. The first quarter, that 71 points, I thought it was over. Obviously, with a 240, 120 each half, 60 points a quarter. Anything over 60 is a over. If it goes over 60 points each quarter, we're dead. Looking at it, that 71 already 10 points out the gate over. I thought it was over with. Then you had Miami just kind of teeter off offensively in the second quarter, and then from there out, they were flip flopping. Their offense as far as Philly and Miami, but Philly did end up pulling it out. Did end up going under. Philly won 124-117. So, gonna go ahead and take that win. One push, obviously, getting that refund is not bad. We'll take that every time. It's better than a loss. So, today's games, we do have a couple games on slate. NBA not so much. Couple college games. Ivy League more than anything. I think like two or three big games as far as Big Five schools. Illinois, Michigan, game like that. We're gonna go ahead and we just have two games today. We got one college game, one NBA play. The college game we got Dayton versus George Washington, and then the NBA play we got is Memphis versus Dallas. That we have is Memphis versus Dallas. So starting off, obviously we always start with the small dogs, the college games. We're gonna go ahead and cap the Davidson and George Washington game. Now, looking at things, we have Davidson coming in at 19-9 overall, 13-5 against the spread, and then as far as over under, they're 11-17 to the under. Then we have George Washington coming in at 16-12, 14-13 against the spread, and then their over under is 13-14 overall. Now in conference, we do have Dayton coming in at 10-5, with George Washington at 7-8. As far as the conference, Dayton is in fourth place with George Washington coming in at ninth. So obviously Dayton, is up there in the conference. George Washington might need this win just to kind of secure a better seeding in the tournament. But looking at that, that is the overall as far as this game. Now, looking at the last game they played against each other was January 6th, so about a month and a half ago, almost 2 months, about a week away from 2 months ago. So not that long ago they did play against each other. It was in Dayton, in Ohio. So Dayton was a 2.5 point favorite. They won the game 79-72 by 7. So obviously they covered, and we had an under 154. So they barely went out by a bucket, 3 points. Um, as far as the conference goes, Dayton is 4-5 away in the conference as far as situational, and then George Washington is 11-3 at home straight up against the spread. George Washington is 7-6 against the spread in the conference, and then Dayton is 3-6 against the spread. So, as far as Dayton, they're great straight up in the conference against the spread, not so much. And then also George Washington being at home is not a bad bet. As far as getting points or taking points, they're good against the spread. Now, Dayton is 4-1 their last five against the spread, 5-1 straight up their last six. They're 14-4 their last 18 against the spread versus George Washington. So they dominate George Washington as far as head to head. They actually you know not are they wherever they're at, they're dominating. 4-1 last five against the 18 overall. So Dayton is 4-1 last five against that conference. 6-1 their last seven in February, which is great. Obviously, we're almost done with February. They've been winning. I think they're on a 4-game win streak right now. So Dayton's been balling. As far as what they right now they're getting it together before the March run. So as far as Friday, they're actually not great on Fridays. They're 5-10 against the spread their last 15. So that's gonna kind of come in handy a little later. Looking at George Washington. But Dayton is not great on Fridays. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the weekend, but 5-10 against the spread last 15 on Friday. Now George Washington, they're 2-5 their last seven against the spread, so they're not doing so great against the spread their last five or seven, 2-5, and then at 13 and three straight up last 16 at home. So like I said, they're great at home. At home money line, they're great. 6-14 straight up last 20 in February. Now that's not a great thing. In February they're 6-14 last 20, so they're not going into March. They teeter off. Obviously, a bulk of their wins come early. A non-conference getting the that's a conference thing to me. When they get in the conference, they're not doing so great, and that shows us with their record. They're also 5-10 against the spread last 15 on Friday. So even though Dayton is 5-10 against the spread last 15 on Friday, George Washington cancels that out by being also 5-10. So I wouldn't be so down on Dayton because George Washington is no better on Fridays. Now George Washington does have a good 4-2 against the spread last six at home on Friday. Even though they're 5-10 against the spread last 15, they are 4-2 against the spread last six. So that is a plus for them. That just shows us that they were more abysmal against the spread. At 5-10, their last 4-2, at last six, they've been doing good. Now, as far as this game goes, looking at the head-to-head, Dayton is 8-2 on the money line against his team, 7-3 against the spread, and then the total is 6-4 to the over. So looking at it, I'm gonna go ahead and roll with Dayton plus the 3.5. I think they're 3.5 right now. I like the 3.5. Obviously, if you can wait a little bit, get them north of that at 4.5. I don't know if it'll go that far. Looking at those trends, looking at how Dayton dominates this matchup, I don't think it'll go past 3.5. You might get money on George Washington based on the home splits that I read out, but overall, I think Dayton being a better team in the conference, Dayton being right there, getting 3 points on the road, I would take Dayton in this matchup. I think Dayton on the money line is worth a look as well. Just because they dominate this team no matter where they're playing at. George Washington can sneak in a game here or there looking at the 14-4, but I just think Dayton getting 3.5 points is the best play on this game right here. Now to go over to the NBA game, like I said, we got Memphis versus Dallas, so we're gonna take a look at that game, do a quick handicap. The last time these two teams played, that was November 22nd, so it's been a while. Right before Thanksgiving break, we had the home team Dallas. Memphis did win that game 102-96 as a dog by 1 point, so it wasn't that big of a pup. But as a dog, if you were on Memphis, you won that. If you took Dallas minus that 1 point, you didn't have a chance. Now the total was 229, so we did have the under at 198 under. Obviously, is a low scoring game in today's NBA. Now, head to head, Memphis has been dominating Dallas. Their Memphis is 8-2 on the money line last 10, 8-2 against the spread as well. So they've been dominating Dallas, and then they're 3-7 to the under. So it's been Memphis in the under majority of these plays the last 10. And then as far as Memphis, Memphis is under in 2-4 to their last six versus the Southwest Conference. So they've been going under against their conference the last six games. Under is also 6-0 last six at Dallas. So Memphis has been an under team when they go to Dallas. The number, no matter where it's at, has been under. Also 6-3 last nine against the division. So Memphis against their division has been an underplay no matter what. Also, they're 12-16 to the under away. So overall, Memphis is 12-16 going to the under in their in their 28 away games overall this season. Also, they're 9-12 to the under against the West away. So away from home against the West, they're 9-12 to the under. So it's not a super big sample size, but we know anything over 50 cents is a positive in our bankroll. So we're gonna look at that as far as where their trends looking at. Dallas is also we got them 2-5 versus their conference. So obviously this is a conference game. Dallas is 2-5 versus the Southwest as well. As far as to the under, we also have Dallas 6-2 to the under their last 8 versus Memphis. So their last 8 games versus Memphis under 6-2. Then we have Dallas also 6-0 their last 6 at home versus Memphis. So obviously that's a correlating trend. These teams in Dallas is an underplay. And then Dallas is under 9-3 last 12 versus Southwest. So their last 12 games against their division, just like Memphis, is under 9-3. So it's a big discrepancy as far as what I'm looking at on that. I'm not going to go too deep into this game because I just think that obviously these teams have been high scoring, especially Memphis, their last 10. I know Memphis been going nuts, going over, so I don't want to, in the streaks, Memphis is over 4 straight, Dallas over 3 straight. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be one of these games where you got to kind of trust your gut. You got to trust what you're looking at. The numbers won't necessarily correlate I mean, overall, maybe this the defense in this game pretty much is what's gonna bank the under for me. I don't have anything that's telling me they're super over teams, even though they have been playing over. You got on the road, like I said, Memphis is 11-16 to the total on the road, and then Dallas 15-16. So even though they are high scoring teams, and lately this last month they've been giving up a lot of points, both teams. They are generally under teams. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the total at 240. Seeing they score 198, not saying that matters because it's 4 or 5 months later, but it just shows me that their tendency, you know, that total was a 223. This 17 points more, and I think that's baked in based on the current, which is obviously always something you want to look at. Last 10 games, 15, 5 games, no matter what, 3 games, their last game, no matter where you're pulling from, you want to pay attention to what the tendency is now. But then also you got to also factor in the overall, the history. All those things matter to me. I don't know how everybody else does it, but I look at everything. And so the 240 is a high number in this series. Obviously, I get it. They've been scoring a lot lately, but these teams against each other, not so much. Obviously, with both teams being really injured, a lot of their great players are out. Basically, both teams are decimated. So we're looking at it as in more because they're not going to be as talented on the offensive side without their best players. You know what I mean? So you would obviously think they won't be as talented on the defensive side. But let's just hope that the offensive side reigns more than the defensive side, and we have a lot of bricks more than makes because the defense doesn't show up. So, like I said, we're gonna take that game under 240 today. So the two plays we got Dayton on the road against George Washington plus 3.5, and then we got uh, Memphis and the Dallas Mavericks under 240 points. So let's go ahead and try to see if we can get another 2-0 day today. Want to thank you guys for tuning in to Total Payout Podcast. It's your host Trouble. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe for me on the end of this channel. I want to thank you guys once again on this Good Friday, February 27th. You guys have a great day. Let's cash that check.